remember those few stories we did at the end of the year about how Fox News was changing its ways because they dared to call Arizona for Biden before anyone else? Forget it. They aren't changing, and in fact, they are doubling down in their old ways.
The risks of mail-in voting are obvious.
Discarded ballots in Texas.
Is the DOJ investigating?
Just as Fox's primetime stars were loudly touting election fraud, the network was quietly settling a multi-million-dollar lawsuit over their prior peddling of another conspiracy theory. For years, Sean Hannity boosted bogus claims that former DNC staffer Seth Rich was murdered for giving secret documents to WikiLeaks.
Now, if true, this could become one of the biggest scandals in American history.
It wasn't true, and Fox paid dearly for the lie. But as part of the agreement with Rich's family, they kept silent until after the election. As the New York Times' Ben Smith writes, the arrangement underscores how deeply entwined Fox has become in Trump's disinformation effort. Meanwhile, remember this Fox election night stunner?
Okay, time out. The Fox News Decision Desk is calling Arizona for Joe Biden.
And for being right, Fox fired the two editors who made the call. Also bumped from her 7 p.m. perch, the factually grounded Martha McCallum.
The story will move to a new time at 3 p.m. Eastern.
Fox is now trying out opinion hosts for her old slot, Brian Kilmeade and conspiracy monger Maria Bartiromo.
Democrats infiltrated 2 weeks ago and put on MAGA clothing.
Right. I wonder if they'll let her wear her tinfoil hat.
Honest to Pete, Joanna, she has gone off the deep end. No theory is too bizarre for her to embrace. From the election fraud to this crazy, those weren't pro-Trump people. Those were actually Democrats, out there protesting. I mean, it's just crazy time. And as far as, covering up the Seth Rich thing, I think that's a stunning story. And of course, Fox hasn't touched it. And, I don't blame the family. They probably didn't care whether they held the news or not. They won that case. But the fact that Fox even had the wherewithal to put that into the agreement is shocking.
Yeah, Emily, I was thinking the same thing about Maria Bartiromo. I think we've talked about this in the past. I mean, she really was a very legitimate reporter for a long time. And the fact that she's gone over to that side is pretty stunning. Look, the shakeup at Fox is intriguing. I never had any doubt that Fox would continue to be the loyal opposition. That's where they began. I mean, they began in a Democratic administration, and they're going to be fine without their audience of one. But the fact that they've been devaluing their news anchors, I think the loss of Shep Smith is a really big deal, actually. He was one of those no holds barred, truth and I'm going to tell it like it is anchors who really did help ground their news operation in fact and news. If they still have Chris Wallace, who's a really good journalist. If they lost him, I don't know what would happen. But the idea that they are elevating, they're the most outrageous hosts and diminishing the news folks even more is a challenge.
I don't want to be flippant here, but I'm going to be a little bit flippant. Bartiromo now resembles one of those people that you see from a block or two away and make a point of giving a wide berth to as you walk down the street. Again, not trying to make light of mental health issues or that kind of thing, but she has gone around the bend. And the fact that she made it a promotion is astounding. I think what happened here is pretty simple. Fox was there when people pointed an accusing finger at them in the final days of the Trump presidency and after the election, saying shame on Fox, saying, we're going to One American News, we're going to Newsmax now. We can't get what we expected from you. They're treating this as a business decision. There has never really been any evidence that Rupert Murdoch has an ethical bone in his body. He doesn't see this as, not to strike a nativist note, but he's not an American. I don't think he's concerned about the effect that his network has had on America as a polity, and expect them to go as low as they can if it gets them the ratings they want.
Good point.
I think that Adam is exactly right. It's about ratings. They've had encroachment and erosion of their ratings from Owen and Newsmax and other sources, and that's what this is about. I'm glad that you brought up in your report, Emily, the part about Martha McCallum, because to me, she was one of the more fair people on that network and showed some good judgment, was a good interviewer, and now she's on in the afternoon. It doesn't really surprise me. It's just so sad and so laughable, a pitiable laugher, that they would put Maria Bartiromo, or at least try her in that slot, particularly after the recent episode where she was punked by the animal rights guy. I think he was interviewing the head of Hormel Foods. I mean, my goodness. The other thing that to me is very troubling, and it really is, as many Fox staffers have quoted as saying, nothing but a purge. The guy who called Arizona on election night, Chris Starwell, is his name, right? There are good employees there, and everybody knows what's happening. It is a purge. They're going further right and further opinion-y because they are losing numbers.
Yeah. Apparently that made Rupert Murdoch really mad that the network called that, even though they were right.
You know, when was the last time somebody got fired for doing the right thing?
Yeah, right.
I have to agree that this is a business decision. They're not looking at it in terms of journalistic integrity. They're not looking at it in terms of serving the public. They're looking at what their audience wants. I mean, internally, they have separated out the journalists from the personalities since the get-go. And the personalities are bringing in the ratings. Even when advertisers vow to stop advertising with them, they're still not losing money really there. So they're pivoting. They understand that their competition is not CNN, is not MSNBC, is not the New York Times or the Washington Post or the Wall Street Journal. Their competition is One American News. Their competition is Newsmax. Their competition is, frankly, any news network that Trump decides to launch post-presidency. There's been lots of talk for a while about Trump TV, and if Trump's base has been Fox News's base, then Fox News is in trouble. So I think that's why we're seeing this pivot all of a sudden, and that's why they're purging the people who could pull them back towards the news side of the equation.
I wonder, though, Lylah, if some of this nutty behavior is going to get them in the same kind of trouble that Sean Hannity got in. That cost them millions of dollars. We don't know how many millions, but I'm guessing at least 10.
The Seth Rich thing cost them millions of dollars, too, and it didn't seem to deter them.
Yeah.
So I think they're thinking of that as an investment. Yeah.
I think for Rupert Murdoch, though, millions of dollars isn't that much. I mean, you know, in context, I think a lawsuit here or there compared to ratings and revenue is probably a deal he's willing to make.